Okay, something that I want that you remember. So previously we saw an important application of Galton. So how his work in a statistic now we still use, and it was very important now. Although that was positive, I'm going to show you a negative aspect of his work that he was not expecting. That is this concept of eugenics. That he was considered the father of eugenics. And remember, these will be at least these ideas right now for our sensibilities. They're at least offensive, and you will see why. And I will ask you the title of this book, Hereditary Genius, and why he proposed those ideas. Remember this term, eminence. This could also appear on one of the tests. And remember that he considered that mental ability was inherent. And why he thought about that? Because he was related to Darwin. He was related to his grandfather was Erasmus. And what he never took into consideration is that all his family has a lot of money, so he has time to educate himself. So this concept of eminent is very important, and he thought that eminent people are more likely to have children of other eminent people. So again, he was biased because of his position in the society. And eugenics is the practice or advocacy of improving human species. Yeah, so I might ask you this in the test, and remember how this is the problem. How you improve human species? By selectively mating people with desirable hereditary traits. And this is when it starts getting a little bit dark, the ideas. So this is a quote from Galton. Eugenics is the study of agencies under social control that improve or impair the racial qualities of future generation, either physically or mentally. There is Sir Francis Galton, and believe it or not, this very important university of England, the University College London. In that university, he was the chair of the Department of Eugenics. Of course, this department disappeared and he turned into human genetics. So, what he was trying to, he can be considered also the father of human genetics. Well, he was trying to study the good thing that he was trying to study, and I will show you in a second. And we watched that in the previous video, that he was trying to study variation and quantify and heredity. However, as he was biased because of his origin, this turned into very racist ideas. And as we're watching the video again, and as I told you before, Galton and Darwin were constantly talking, were constantly in correspondence, and Galton was a big admirer of the work of Darwin. So as a result, when he read the book of the origin of the species, he said that this initiated into an entire new province of knowledge. So when Galton started reading the book of the origin of the species, it created a revolutionary effect on his own thinking, and he started having regular correspondence with Darwin until the death of Darwin. And he was so interested in his work that he tried to test the hypothesis that Darwin proposed about pangenesis. And here is when it started getting very interesting. And this will be in your test, because Galton tried to test the idea of the pangenesis. So if you remember, Darwin had proposed that the mechanism of inheritance was here, pangenesis, in which pangenes or gemmules that they were located in bodily fluids mixed during mating. So Galton said, I love this idea. What about if I develop an experiment? And he actually developed an experiment. So what he did is, if he proposed that if pangenesis was true, if he take the blood of a rabbit that is has a fur that is black, and he take the blood and put it into a rabbit that have a fur much lighter, what he's going to have, he will transfer all the pan genes here, and as a result, the progeny will be with a black fur. So remember, Galton was a super fan and admirer of Darwin, so he tried to have an experiment. So Galton proposed to test the idea of pangenesis using experiments on rabbits. So that will be in the test, and how he did that, using blood transfusions, because if you remember, the pangenes were in the blood, in the different uh, fluids of the body. And just to remind you, this word Jamils and Pangenes are the same. The interesting thing is that when he did the experiment, he found unexpected results. So he got evidence that pangenesis was not correct. So Francis Galton disapproved pangenesis. So using this transfusion of blood from black rabbits into white rabbits, he failed to have an white offspring. So instead of getting this result, of having a black progeny, he continued having a white progeny, as we expect, because the pan genes are not in the blood. Or, I mean, the genes are not in the blood, are in the nucleus, as we know. So if you transfer blood, you're not going to transfer information. And he was so excited because he wanted to communicate with Darwin. And I just remind you, before telling you what happened with Darwin, that this idea of pangenesis, it took all this time, more than 2,000 years, to develop an experiment to test this idea of Hippocrates. So for many years, we were talking about pangenesis, but actually nobody tested for such a long time. And it's something that now science is constantly trying to do. That is, challenge their ideas and try to test using experiments. To finish this idea between Galton and Darwin, as I said before, Galton sent the results to Darwin. However, Galton unexpectedly found that Darwin got very upset because Darwin worked so hard on the pangenesis. As we said before, he was trying to answer all the questions that Darwin couldn't answer, and that they were supporting the idea of origin of the species. So Darwin was very sensitive about that topic. So at the end, Galton ended up apologizing. Yeah, he rejected his ideas. He said, I am wrong. Sorry, he apologized, although he was right. And in the next section, I'm going to talk about eugenics. So I hope that you enjoyed this part, and I want that you think about this idea. What traits do you think that are necessary? How do you make the perfect Canadian? Do you pick the best singer, the best artist, the smartest people? Do you the strongest one, the nicest person, the one that played the best hockey, or what do you think that? How do you make the best? Yeah, how to make a better world? How to make better humans? Um, Thinking about while you think about that, in the next lecture we will talk about how Galton tried to solve that question. So have a good day and see you in the next lecture.